Looking to showcase your product or service? There's no better place than the AFCA Convention, which will take place January 8th through the 10th in 2023 in Charlotte, North Carolina. The AFCA Convention is an opportunity to exhibit in front of over 7,000 coaches and staff members. Head on over to convention.afca.com for more information. See you in Charlotte.
This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring Illinois State's defensive backs and defensive associate head coach Mike Banks. Coach Banks talks about his time coaching at his alma mater, what he looks for in upcoming players, and his own professional development. Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Banks.
Coach Banks, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm all good, man. Can't complain. You know, that time of the year, getting off the road from all these camps and finally getting back around our guys. So things are going good right now.
That's always good to kind of get back home and get around your players. As much fun as recruiting in the camps can be, but it's nothing better than just getting back around the fam. And I know you got a little one too, Magnolia, huh? That I'm sure was missing Daddy while you're running around a little bit, huh?
Absolutely. So the camps and the whole scene is always awesome, but when you get to come home and see that little girl run up to you, super excited with that smile on her face, nothing beats that.
That's awesome, man. Well, you know, home for you is a little different for a lot of coaches, right? Home for you is, you know, you played at Illinois State, you GA Illinois State, and then obviously have elevated yourself to associate head coach, defensive backs at Illinois State. Talk to us a little bit about what has kind of kept you around where, you know, I'm sure you've had other opportunities, maybe go scratch that itch elsewhere. What's kept you around that program?
Sure, man. It's a little different, man, when you play at the university that you played at, that you're coaching at, man. It's a little bit special. You know, we actually have about 5 coaches on staff that actually played here. Yeah. So, you know, in terms of recruiting, and it means a little bit more when you played at that institution. You know, I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago, so that's about 2 hours north. So it's pretty convenient for family to come down and check us out and play. Yeah. So that family aspect of it is also huge. But the people in this town, man, the people that are in this program, starting with the administration and then Coach Spack is awesome. You know, he took care of me as a player. And he's doing the same thing as a coach, so it's hard to leave good people, man. It really is.
Yeah, when you're in a good situation, man, it's tough to break away, especially when it happens to be your alma mater. And one of those guys on that staff, tremendous friend of mine. One of the guys that, and I don't say, I mean, he's one of the brightest football minds and people I looked as a mentor. Looked to as a mentor whenever I was a coach myself is Travis Niekamp, defense coordinator over there. He's a great friend of mine, and I know he played there and has been there for a while now as a coach.
Travis does a great job with our defense, man. I learned a lot from him, just being in a room with him every single day. You know, just trying to pick his brain. He's seen a lot of football, man. He's been in a lot of different situations, and you know, whenever you could be in a room with a guy like that to just kind of piggyback off of him and pick his brain a little bit, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm going to give you a piece of intel. I don't know if you know this, if y'all ever play any noon basketball or anything. Niekamp can hoop, man. He can ball if you ever put him on the court. I don't know if he still gets out there or not.
You know what? A few years ago, we would play some games, but he doesn't run up and down the floor anymore, but you put him to get that ball on the low post, he can still shoot it.
Yeah, off the glass, whatever. His thing is going in.
Yeah, he can still shoot it pretty good.
Now, you talked about your, playing at your alma mater and then coaching at your alma mater, you know, when you have a standout career like you did. And one of the difficulties I always like to ask about, you know, for anybody that has that privilege is, how do you go from, transitioning from Michael Banks, the player, to Coach Michael Banks? You know, some guys that might know you as a player and remember, you know, you hanging out playing video games. Now all of a sudden you're in a position of where, you know, leadership and all that kind of stuff. How did you transition?
You know, that's always tough because, you know, like you say, those were your guys. So a lot of the people that when I first became full-time, a lot of those guys were on the team with me. You know, they were the younger. I was hosting on recruiting visits, so they kind of see different aspect. But it's been pretty smooth for me, to be honest with you, just because, I always thought of myself as a leader. I was never a captain for our team, but I was always a leader, so I was always the guy that was going to do the right things all the time and just kind of be that leader by example type. And I think the transition into coaching, that has helped out a lot, just being a leader in that locker room. They kind of already see those type of players as a coach type figure, so just being a leader within among those guys has made the transition pretty smooth,
Absolutely. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about defensive back play, okay? Obviously, it's, for me, just in a role that I'm in education, I mean, some of the most popular content that we put out in regards to, coaching education, it is always the DBs. That if I need somebody to speak, it's always the DB guys that are running, because there is just so much technique involved. And obviously, there's a 4 to 5 players depending on your defensive style of that position on the field. So there's a ton of DB coaches out there. But what are some of those traits when you turn on some film and you hop into the recruiting phase? What are some things that you're looking for out of a high school or transfer defensive back?
Yeah. So one of the most things that I look at is, do you have good feet? Are you getting in and out of your breaks efficiently, whether that's breaking downhill 45, breaking 90, or, opening your hips, turning and running and going 135, So watching a guy and see if he can get in and out of his breaks, transitions, that's more important for me. If he's playing fast, if he can anticipate, that's more important to me than his actual 40 time, because if you're playing fast, it doesn't matter what your 40 time is, but if you can anticipate, got good hips, good feet, can get in and out of your breaks, those are some of the main attributes that I like to look for when I'm evaluating DBs.
When you're evaluating DBs, and what are some of those things? I remember looking at receivers, and every now and again there'd be something I just say, I got to cut this off. This is he did that intangible thing, or he did that thing that I don't like. Well, do you have any of those kind of things where you see it on film and you're like, that's not good enough for me?
You know what? There's some things that turn me off. I wouldn't necessarily cut it off, because, depending on who it is, I think we can coach them up and, kind of develop that player. Being at our level, we're a developmental program. So we're going to take, your guys aren't going to be ready-made, once they come in here. So I like to think that I can develop certain character traits into guys, but in our defense, to play defensive back, you're going to be involved in the run game. You're going to have runs. So if a guy just tells me he's a strictly cover corner type of guy, or he doesn't want to, get his face involved and not a willing tackler, that's one thing that will turn me off. Is our DBs are actively in the run game, and if you can't tackle, you can't get guys on the ground, then you're going to be a liability for us.
And I can definitely see one of those things, like everywhere I ever worked was, especially like Illinois State, it was a developmental spot. But you know, sometimes it's hard to coach a dude that doesn't want to tackle. I mean, you can't teach that competitive edge in terms of want to go stick your face in there.
And so and that's always a hard one to evaluate, because you can't really evaluate it in a camp or anything like that. So that comes strictly from talking to the coach. What type of, is this kid a physically tough kid? Is he going to put his face on the guy, or that type of deal? And watching the tape, if you don't see it on tape, it's probably not in him. So that's probably one of the biggest things that's a no-no for me, is you're not a willing tackler.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hey, I wanted to ask you this question here. I kind of alluded to Magnolia earlier, your 1-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
In this profession, regardless of how fantastic your head coach is, I mean, there's some hours that kind of just have to go into this thing. There's some traveling that just goes into this thing. With your daughter coming in the last year, and you been coaching since 15. What was that transition like? Adding that little one in, and how have you been able to manage? Just as a piece of advice to young coaches that are might be starting a family in this profession.
Sure, absolutely. So we were kind of blessed that our child was born in the midst of COVID. Yeah. So she was born in November of 2020. So we weren't playing we weren't playing that fall. So I was able to be around a lot more than what I would have been, being that she was born in November, but and me and my fiance, we're getting married in July. So I have a tremendous fiance. She comes from a coaching family.
Okay.
Her dad is a high school basketball coach, about 2 hours north of here. So she's been around the coaching lifestyle her entire life. She actually is the assistant athletic director for EDI for Illinois State. So she gets the whole athletic deal. So that kind of helps out a lot, but it's awesome having the little one because she gets to be around sports her whole life. She gets to sit up here during football games. We take her to all the sporting events, all the basketball, gymnastics, all that type of stuff. So just to see her smiling and enjoying all that type of stuff, man, it's pretty awesome. It's been a pretty good transition, adding her into the mix. It's a little different. You got a lot for a little bit more time on certain things, but it's been pretty good so far, man. It's been pretty good.
Well, that's great, man. And like you said, it was definitely a blessing to be able to have her in COVID, during that COVID period where you're a little less busy than normal.
Correct.
What was maybe some of the difficulties, probably for you, just spending all that time with her and then start transitioning back to that regular life? What were some difficulties you faced with that?
Yep. So that's tough, especially when they start to talk. You tell them, hey, daddy got to go to work.
Right.
They start to cry and all that stuff. That can impact you a little bit. That hurts a little bit, but I try to spend as much time around them as possible, so it could. And Coach Spack does a great job. He lets we get our work done, man, and he said, go be with your family, go be with your family, which is awesome. So, just certain things as far as like Sundays when we watch the tape at home, if she's up, I'll have her sitting down there with me, grading the tape, so just little things like that you can do to be around them as much as possible, kind of helps that transition a little bit, man. But and one good thing about it is it doesn't matter what the score is, you can get your butt kicked, but she's going to have a smile on her face. She's going to love her dad. She's going to be ready to go.
Yeah. I had a few guys on the podcast here over the last few months, and we've talked a little bit about that family aspect, and that's just the one part that puts a smile on my face because it's nothing like going out there and just getting your butt kicked, and then you want to go home and put your face in a pillow, and then just change your perspective.
She put things into perspective for you. No matter how hard or how good your day was going at the office, man. Once you get home, that's your real life right there. You really understand what's really important.
What's important? Yeah, no doubt.
Wins or losses are going to happen, but at the end of the day, it's all about your family.
That's right, man. And she doesn't know nor care what
no.
Not yet. At some point it'll start registering, but right now she doesn't know nor care. She just knows daddy's home and it's time to play.
You talk about Coach Niekamp. His kids are older now.
Yeah.
So he said, enjoy it while she's little because once she gets older, like my kids, they become jerks to you when you lose.
Yeah. What's funny, man, is I would love to go back and find this podcast, man. This was you know what? I think we had Coach Niekamp on maybe some years ago, and I think I was actually on the podcast with him, and we talked about how I was telling him how much I respected watching him raise his kids because when I was coaching with them, they were young. I mean, they were 6, 7, 8 years old, and they were running around, and and you talk about when he after practice watching them sprint across that field and run up to him, and regardless of how bad his position group played or how bad we played, man, he was tossing that ball with them, man, and they absolutely loved it. So he was one of the guys, like I said, I always saw as a mentor, but I loved his family dynamics.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great family. One of his boys is he's going to be playing for us this fall. So
that's right.
It's going to be interesting.
Well, hopefully he's not playing linebacker. Is he playing linebacker?
He is.
Oh my goodness.
He's in that room with Pop.
He's going to see a different side of him. But no, I'm looking forward to that. I know he is. That's going to be special for their family there. Now, one of your roles there is the defensive associate head coach. Just talk to us a little bit about what that role entails and what it means to you.
Yeah, so So essentially, what I do is I'm kind of the liaison between defensive staff and coach. So if we need some things altered or tweaked or practice schedules or something like that, I'll go present it to Coach Spack, that type of deal. And also, Coach Spack allows me to sit in on like disciplinary actions when involving our players. He also asks for my opinion on certain things about the program. So it's interesting on that side because when situations happen on the team, me selfishly, I think about how is it going to affect my position group, X, Y, and Z. But when Coach asks those questions, he tells you his mindset. He's thinking of it as a holistic, how's it going to affect the program. And sometimes that's a little different than how it's just going to specifically affect my group. So that's been awesome. Just, giving Coach feedback and him giving me feedback on why he's thinking certain situations on different things that go involved with our team. So just learn that total holistic approach of, what it takes to be essentially the CEO of a big organization, big corporation is a little different than just the cornerbacks. So that's kind of what I do in that role.
Well, I mean, that's got to be paramount for, I don't know your dreams and aspirations, but I would assume at some point in time, in the near future or long-term future, you want to be a head coach. It's got to be huge in the development of being a head coach because you're right. You do have to think outside of your selfish wants and needs. It's got to be
absolutely
what's beneficial to the greater good and the greater cause.
Yep, and it might not necessarily be the best thing for my specific position group, but when you start to think, you hear different perspectives, you hear coaches' perspective, and I got to think about everybody involved. I got to think about the players. I got to think about you guys as the coaches. I got to think about the training staff, everybody, So just hearing that side of it and how that mindset and thinking goes into decision-making is pretty impressive, and I get information from that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, I kind of allude to your development there to essentially be a head coach at some point in time. Let's just talk about your development as far as mentorship. One of the interesting things is you played there, you coached there. Majority of those coaches you've been around with a long, long time. Who are some of the guys maybe outside of those walls at Illinois State that you maybe lean to get different perspectives from outside?
Yep. So, growing up in sports my entire life, one of my, not even a football coach, but my travel baseball coach, his name is Coach Clark. He was very influential in my life, my development, not only as a player, but also as a coach. Just the way that he built relationships, the way he cared about the players, that type of stuff. I still carry that with me today, So he would be my first mentor outside of the building. And then I played for a tremendous head coach in high school, Coach Frank Linty at Mount Carmel. So we call him the Godfather. But he taught me so many things as far as what it takes to be prepared to be a football coach, that I learned so much information from Coach Frank that we could sit here all day and talk about, the little lessons and stuff that he taught me. But Coach Frank was great for me. He's the reason that I ended up at Illinois State, and he never steered me wrong. He said, you can go there, you're going to get taken care of, you can win some football games, and, it's good people there, and I listened to them, and, the rest is history so far.
No doubt, man. Well, you talk about, those two coaches, your travel baseball coach in high school, head football coach, and, one of the big, awards that we give here is called the Power of Influence. And I just, for whatever reason, I love the name of that award. It goes out to a high school coach in different regions. And you just talk about the power of influence as a coach. I mean, what a lasting impact that a travel baseball coach has had with you. I mean, it really goes to show how special this profession is. And, hopefully you're doing the same thing to pay it forward with your student athletes and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. And, when somebody can teach you more than just the X's and O's of football, baseball, basketball, no matter what sport it is, once you learn in life lessons, those have been the most influential coaches in my life are the ones that have taught me more than just the X's and O's, learn real life lessons from those guys.
Man, that's awesome. Well, before I let you go, man, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the 35 under 35. And I hopefully you don't mind me putting your story out there a little bit. I think you applied 3 or 4 years in a row. And I want to say this again for anybody that's listening that may be discouraged with the application process. It's competitive. You know, I encourage anybody to go look at the list of guys that have, you know, have been on that list the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, these are top-notch guys, and you know, sometimes you put together a perfect application, but it just doesn't necessarily work out. And that's kind of been your case for I think 2 years, and then you finally were part of this class. What was so important for you to keep applying and keep reaching out and keep you know, digging into your network to help broaden your chances?
You know, is what you just said. You know, just to be mentioned with some of those great coaches that've been on those lists in the past. You know, a lot of really good ball coaches that were nominated and that got the award. You know, so just to be mentioned with those guys and kind of piggyback and learn from those guys, pick their brain a little bit. That was my driving force. You know, I knew that I was going to be a good coach if I got it or not. But just to be mentioned with those guys and just have those guys as a resource, you know, is what kind of kept pushing me forward to keep applying. And just the great things that you guys are doing within that program to help elevate and advance our profession and our game, you know, is a big reason why I just kept trying, you know.
Well, no doubt, man. I'm excited that you did. Unfortunately, you know, COVID hit and you didn't get to make it down this year. But at the same time, you know, we continue to bring guys back and continue to keep them involved with it. So, you know, I know you didn't get a full taste of it this year, but look forward to 23 in Charlotte where you come and be a part.
And what's awesome is how you guys send out the list of who makes. So, you know, with Twitter, you can hit guys up like, hey, congratulations, I see you know. So just from, you know, networking kind of like that. At some of these camps, I bumped into some guys that were part of this class. So we got to connect that way and share some resources, kind of gave me like a timeline and stuff of what happened, you know, or what was going down on some of the speakers. So, you know, I wasn't physically there, but, you know, I was able to hear a little bit of how it went. And again, I'm looking forward to next year to go into some of the reunion deals. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
no doubt, man. Well, I can't wait to have you there. Before I let you go, though, I do want to give you the opportunity to share your Twitter or any social media that you prefer to the listeners. So if they got some questions or want to keep up with your journey, they can do so.
Absolutely. Yep. So you can follow me, guys, on Twitter at Coach_MBanks24. Again, that's Coach_MBanks24.
Well, we'll make sure to link that in show notes to make it super easy for guys to find you. Once again, we appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you in Charlotte, and you know, tell Coach Niekamp I said hey. And I can't believe I went this whole podcast without mentioning you guys scooped up my man Kenny as well, right?
Yeah. So Kenny got here last week, so he's been awesome for us so far. Okay. He's in there banging pre-scouting reports right now, so he's doing a great job.
Y'all stay after him. For anybody that doesn't know, he was a GA for us here at the AFCA, and you know, he did a tremendous job and fell in love with the coaching profession and actually went and coached at Sol Ross and Niekamp hit me up and was looking for a defensive GA that was good behind a computer and I mentioned Kenny and the rest was history. So
So Kenny's going to be working with Coach Niekamp with the linebackers, and he's going to be helping our outside linebackers coach and myself with the special teams.
That's awesome. Well, put a foot up his butt if you got to, and tell him it's from Mario at the AFCA, man. And
we'll do it. I don't think we'll need it, but we'll do it.
I got you, man. All right, well, best of luck, man.
All right, Mario, I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price, and remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.